Oi! This is a follow-up to my previous video about my trip through the UK. Please check that one out first if you haven't already. But as a quick summary, in that video I told the story of how my partner, our friend Tim and I, came up with a masterful, foolproof plan to drive our own car around as much of the UK as we could within 3 weeks, and how I had the personal goal to use this as an opportunity to combat social anxiety. That part ended with us arriving at our first destination, Dover. We pulled up to the hotel car park, which, I guess because we were all extremely tired, was in that moment the most confusing thing any of us had ever laid our eyes on. On the walls surrounding the car park were signs indicating who each space belonged to, so, not seeing any other obvious space intended for us, we pulled up to the one that seemed vaguely hotel-like, and exited our metal prison from the last several hours, finally making our first steps onto English soil. Well, concrete, I guess. In the hotel lobby, we had our first notable interaction with a local, Greg the receptionist. We had a smooth check-in experience, in which Greg explained to us where to park, while showing us a picture of the exact place we'd parked with a huge red X over it. Greg warmly explained the ins and outs of the hotel, gave us a few restaurant recommendations in the area, and let us know that he would always be here for us if we needed him. We promptly never saw him again. During the planning phase, we made the decision to stay in Dover for 2 nights to recover from our long journey and prepare us for our next destination in Norwich. So we were delighted to find out that our hotel room was pretty nice. Not wanting to waste the day, we headed back out to explore the town and find a place to enjoy our first British pub meal. And the town was... a town? It was about 6 PM, and everything was dead. As we walked through the little town, looking for some semblance of life, I couldn't ignore the feeling of unease lingering inside me. It just reminded me a lot of my time growing up in this country, in my home city that felt cold, barren, almost forgotten, and right next to a retail park. Retail parks are basically, imagine a huge car park with popular brands of shops surrounding it. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of them because they promote even more car use in this country where it feels like there's cars and traffic everywhere, no matter where you go, what time of day it is. And it's a little depressing to see them become more frequent while the local businesses within cities continue to die out. After realizing there wasn't much for us to see or do here, we headed back to the hotel and decided to just eat at one of the pubs that Greg suggested. And to be honest, it was not great. Everything was pretty flavorless, and can someone tell me who eats sauerkraut with a Sunday roast? Considering this is where the ferry from France arrives, I imagine that restaurants like this, close to the coast, are kinda just there for tourists. I doubt many locals actually eat here. But the pints were very nice, although a little expensive. And we kept hearing German, which was kind of killing the we just drove across the ocean to another country vibe. Our next plan was to have a cute little evening walk on the beach, but after discovering that it was very small and also made of rocks, we ended up at a certain overwhelmingly common pub chain. Yes, pub chains are a thing that exist. Apparently cozy, locally owned pubs are a rarity nowadays, as a huge amount of them have been bought out by these chains, something we would come to discover pretty quickly on this trip. This chain specifically is known for its ugly carpets and ridiculously cheap food and drinks, the food being the most criticized as poor quality. But to be honest, I'd unironically rather eat here than some of the other pub chains that plague the UK. Considering literally nothing else was open, we decided to end our day here. It was a little hard to have any meaningful social interactions here since the place was divided up into cubicles. The most interesting interaction we had was someone asking what was the name of some shots we'd ordered, and then just leaving. And that was pretty much the first day. A lot of traveling, a few disappointments, but honestly, the excitement of thinking of our plans to come was impossible to ruin. The next day, we woke up after a pleasant sleep, and kind of had the mutual thought of, should we really have stayed 2 days here? However, the city was thankfully a lot more lively during the daytime. We were still finished looking around after less than an hour though. It's a fairly small town, so we decided it was time to check out Dover Castle. After scaling a ridiculously steep hill, we found the ticket booth and were a bit put off by the £27 ticket price. But the castle did look really cool, and honestly we weren't sure what else to do. It was pretty worth it though. There was a ton of stuff to look at, which took us basically the whole day. And the view from right at the top was really inspiring. I don't know, it was kind of fitting to look over the country and be like, we're gonna drive through there. At the end of the day, we went to another one of Greg's recommendations for food, the hotel restaurant. which was also not good, honestly. Like, it was fine, but everything took really long to arrive despite us being the only ones there. And it was extremely average for the price. Honestly, Greg's disappearance is starting to make a lot more sense. So on day 3, we finally got on the road for real this time. Andrew eased into driving on the left extremely quickly, as we said they would. As I alluded to in the first part, the worst part about driving in the UK is actually not having to drive on the left, it's having to share the same road with the other drivers. I can't tell you how many people hogged the middle lane, didn't indicate when turning or changing lanes, and drove either way under the speed limit or way above it, with no in between. Apparently, 81% of drivers in the UK feel stressed while on the road. And after what we witnessed, I am not the least bit surprised. Our next stop was Norwich, but considering it was somewhat on the way, we stopped briefly in Cambridge, which was pretty nice. Absolutely packed with tourists, but the city itself is very pretty, and I'm glad we took a look around. In a cafe, we were spoken to by a lady who, I think we were both waiting for drinks and they were taking a little while, and after mentioning that, we somehow got into a conversation about where we're from, what we're doing here and such. I definitely had that uncomfortable anxiety feeling the entire time, which was not aided by the fact that it was a little hard to hear since the cafe was kinda loud, but I did my best to ignore it, and did a decent job of engaging with the conversation. Thank you, British person who was visiting Cambridge and will most likely never watch this video. I'm glad that we only passed through Cambridge, as I don't really know what we would have done with an entire day here. We considered checking out the famous university building, but was scared off by the ticket fee. If we hadn't spent so much the day before on tickets for Dover Castle, maybe we would have done it. But yeah, if you happen to have been there, you'll have to let us know if it's worth it. Alright, so I need to go back in time a bit to explain a few things about our accommodation in Norwich. Back home, as we were planning our routes, booking places to stay, etc., we'd typically search for places based on the lowest price. I mean, do the math for how many places we needed to stay at. We couldn't exactly afford luxury. Then the first thing that popped up for Norwich was a tent. We joked around about it at first, but as we browsed the other options, we kept coming back to this stupid tent. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. It seemed like a fun idea. After all, the whole point of this trip was to make fun and interesting memories. And what's more fun and interesting than a tent? To be fair, it looked really cozy on the photos. So we roll up to this farm in which the tent is situated, the very nice owners, and all the cute animals that we were allowed to pet, and they pointed us towards our accommodation. So this was a really big tent with a proper bed in the middle. Very nice and all, but the caveat was that it was absolutely full of bugs. Like, yeah, it's a tent, sure you gotta expect a spider or two, but this was something else. The video does not do it justice. It was absolutely filled with flies, moths, things I've literally never seen before. Those guys were having a field day in there. We're staying here for 2 nights.